what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Krisjan Radio. My name is Krisjan. I'm joined here on screen today by Josiah Hepworth and Jared Turner of Construction Solutions Company in Idaho Falls, Idaho. How's it going, fellas?
Doing great.
Right on. What's new in Idaho Falls? How's life out there in eastern Idaho?
Just trying to survive all the craziness. Things have been okay in construction, so we're grateful for that. So things are going pretty well.
Good, man. So let's talk about that. Jared, tell me how about where you came from in construction, how you got into construction to begin with, and what your role is at Construction Solutions Company.
Sure, it's kind of a funny story. I had already applied to college. I'd been accepted. I was registering for some of my classes. I was working in construction at the time, and it was actually me and my brother Jim. We're driving in a car. I can't remember where we were driving. We were driving somewhere. And I just asked him, like, what should I major in? And he said, well, I guess you could do construction. I'm like, yeah, that'd be cool. Maybe we could own a business someday together. That would be cool. And so I just decided there in the car, I'll manage in construction management. So 15 years later, has it been 15? Probably 15, 18 years later.
Time flies, man.
I own a business with Jim and our other partner, Eric Wall. So I got a degree in construction management. I thought I wanted to do residential.
Yeah.
So I accepted a job down in Tucson at the time with the national home builder, Pulte Homes. I built a home for 3 years. The crash happened, and we decided to move up here to Idaho, and I decided to switch from residential to commercial. So I worked for a couple different general contractors here in the area. And when the second hit happened in 2008, 2009, I wasn't sure. I guess it was 2012. I wasn't sure if I would be able to keep a job. I was able to keep a job, but I had formed Construction Solutions Company, did the paperwork on it, and hadn't needed to do anything with it. Jim and Eric, the contractor that they worked for at the time, went out of business, and so I just told them, hey, I've already done the paperwork on this. Why don't you just take this? So I signed it over to them, and I think it was about 8 months to 12 months later, I jumped ship to come on board with them as a partner.
Nice. And you guys we were just talking about, you guys have grown a bunch. How many? You guys have more than 20 employees now, right?
Yeah, it's mid-20s. I'd have to count about mid-20s. As we have our office staff, and then we also have guys out in the field. We self-perform some carpentry. We've always self-performed some limited carpentry work and demolition, but we've recently kind of built up a good framing crew, so we take on our own framing stuff on a lot of our jobs that we do.
That's awesome. I see a lot of general contractors that they'll self-perform concrete and structural steel. Is that stuff you guys are looking at doing, or does that make sense for you guys to maybe down the road look at that?
It could be. If we get a little bit bigger, you got to have enough work to keep those guys busy.
Sure.
Since we do a lot of remodels and restaurants, we can kind of keep those carpenters busy. We've thought about maybe concrete, what might be the next step if we decide that that's a good fit for us.
Nice. So Josiah, man, tell me about you. Where'd you come from? How'd you get here?
Well, I grew up, my father was a carpenter. He's actually a framer for quite a few years.
Yeah, I know that song.
He then transitioned into hotels, flipping and remodeling hotels out in the Midwest. And I really liked that experience growing up in that environment. I wanted to take it a little bit bigger, go on into more commercial construction. So I went to school at BYU, Idaho, graduated, I think, August of 2017, did a few internships with some big companies out west. I just really gravitated towards the smaller company, a little more experience in different areas. So I was lucky enough to get on with Construction Solutions Company about 3 years ago. Started in project management. I've kind of transitioned around. I kind of found my passion working with owners, getting business, and marketing and business development is kind of where I've got my current hand and my passion. I'm also an estimator. So I'm an estimator and a business developer for Construction Solutions Company.
Nice. Which I think I probably know the answer to this, but which do you like better, hustling business or estimating?
I like the technical aspect of it. I like getting down and grinding, but then I also like getting out and meeting people. So I'm an introvert and an extrovert. So it's kind of nice to have that.
Yeah. I've always thought, I've never been an estimator. I mean, for what I do now at Stack Our Group, I, sort of by default, estimate a lot of projects and, budget stuff, what it's going to take, but I'm not, an estimator. That seems to me one of the most thankless jobs there is in construction. That's a full-time gig I would never wish on anybody.
It's a good time. It does get tedious at times, but I enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to me either you're in trouble because you left money on the table, or you're in trouble because you can't bid any work right, and knock anything down. It seems awful to me.
There is that part of it.
Yeah. Jared knows that tune.
Yeah, everybody wants to blame the estimator, huh?
Right. Exactly. So currently, I know you guys, you're based in Idaho Falls. You guys, have a ton of market share there and do a lot of work in Idaho Falls. You guys also do stuff all over the place too. Talk about that a little bit, like where, kind of where geographically you guys are working and what kind of projects you're working on.
Sure. Yeah, we've kind of taken everything we can in Idaho, as Eastern Idaho specifically. But then we do have some national clients, some national retail and restaurant clients that are very, very important clients for us and very good work, good relationships. And so it's work that we know, and they wanted us to travel for them. So I'm more comfortable as a business owner traveling if we know the owner and we know the business. Those are two risk factors, I guess I should say. Going into a different area is a risk factor, but if we know the owner and we know the work, then it's a lot easier to travel and make that work for our business. So we have those national clients that have taken us Oregon, Washington, Dakotas, Montana, Utah. And so we've traveled specifically for those types of owners. Recently, we've been down in Phoenix because Eric likes to golf. So it's always been his dream to be down in Phoenix. And
right.
Or we got into a public-private partnership with the city down there, a suburb of Phoenix, Maricopa. So we've got 30 acres to develop that we're working on that. So we actually might do quite a bit of work next year just in Phoenix.
That's awesome. Yeah, I figured it was only a matter of time until the Construction Solutions Company South office would open up down there somewhere.
It's only natural for the golfers.
Right. Yeah. God, Phoenix though, is my, I like golf. Like, I'm not crazy about golf, whatever. I enjoy it. I don't enjoy heat. Like, living down there is nothing I could ever mess with, man. Construction wise, I don't know how they get anything done there. Like working outside or putting down concrete in 110 degrees, man. I don't know how they do that.
Yeah. They start at 2:00 in the morning. They get out the lights and they start pouring at 2:00 in the morning.
No, thank you. So, I'm a career marketer, business development guy. So I always kind of gravitate, the conversation to that a little bit. So when you talk about these national client stuff you guys have, where did those come from? Was it just relationships, or were they accounts, where people you guys targeted and went after? Can you talk about that a little bit, where, kind of how you got that work?
Sure. Yeah. A little bit of both. It's funny how some of these stories pan out. We were doing restaurants at the time when we were young. Eric and Jim were already working on restaurants when their other contractor that they worked for went out of business. And so they continued with those contracts. And as in most construction, you can't do the work unless you've done the work in owners' minds. Like, you can't do restaurants unless you've done restaurants. You can't do hotels unless you've done
because doing a restaurant is so much different than doing anything else.
Yeah, it's funny because, restaurants are probably one of the more complicated projects that we've done just because they're kind of like airplanes. They've got all these systems and mechanical things, and they're all stuffed into this little tiny box. Sure. But all the other stuff we've done is easier than restaurants because the time frames are very tight, and they are fairly complicated with all the systems that are crammed together. But Eric just called me one day and said, hey, this company called NPC, who's the biggest franchisee of Pizza Hut, they called me and they wanted to do this little kitchen remodel. And do you want to do it? And it's only just like a week. They were putting these wing streets so they could do their fryers and then the chicken wings. And so I said, yeah, sure. Let's estimate. Let's just see. And so we got it, and that turned into probably 80 projects in
That's awesome.
5 different states. We did it for them. And they said, hey, can you go here and do this and keep doing it? So for about a year and a half, we did those, and it fed us as a company. And help pay the bills. So once we developed that first good national restaurant relationship, it was very easy for us to approach McDonald's and to convince McDonald's to give us a shot. But as you're growing, you really realize how important it is to perform. I mean, when somebody gives you a shot, you got to hit a home run.
100%. I mean, that's a tale as old as time. Is a company, it doesn't matter what industry it is, that's growing too fast and takes on too much work or too many projects or whatever, and then can't perform. And they were building this thing, and then it all topples down. So that's a thing at Stackrock Group that we've always been super cognizant of too, is, you know, taking on the right projects, you know, working with the right people, and not taking on more than we can handle, because the last thing we want to do is let anybody down. Yeah. So Josiah, man, what you know, business development, marketing wise, what kind of stuff are you working on right now?
So right now we're working on McDonald's down in Arizona.
Nice.
They're reopening all of their stores here shortly, but they're pushing out their next big construction phase down there.
What are those? Are those like just like remodel?
Yep, reimaging.
You know, franchise standard remodel type stuff. Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
So we're trying to build those relationships with all the franchisees down there. Here locally, we're trying to get into more hospital work and hospitality work.
Nice.
So we're directing our marketing efforts towards those types of clients and getting in front of those types of people. And locally as well, it's been tough, but I'm fairly young, so I know a lot of the national guys, but here locally, I don't know a lot of the games or the players in town. Eric and Jared knows them all. So I go around town and introduce myself, give them donuts on a weekly basis, get to know all the businesses. COVID's definitely thrown a little wrench in that, but to see the receptiveness
tell me about it, man.
of that.
Yeah.
It's like, you might think that people still frown away from that because of COVID, but I've seen great success in it.
Sure.
Going around introducing.
You know what, Josiah? We might change from donuts to handing out masks and hand sanitizer. Maybe that'll go over pretty
I think that's next week, Wednesday. Mask run.
Sheets of plexiglass.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So obviously, you're focusing on stuff in Idaho Falls, focusing on stuff nationally, regionally. So other than the face-to-face type stuff, what are you doing, marketing wise? You have an email newsletter. You're doing a lot of, social media stuff. What other stuff are you kind of working on?
Yeah, it's mostly right now our marketing focus is Facebook and Instagram, transitioning into LinkedIn. So that's our main focus.
Nice.
As well as just cold calling and hitting the phones.
Yep. In my experience, man, LinkedIn, as far as, cold calling and, researching, figure out kind of who's who and who's working on what, and, who you need to talk to about, whatever's going to happen. LinkedIn is far and away the best. I have had insane success with LinkedIn. I mean, everybody, not everybody, but I don't know I can't say what the percentage is, exactly, but it seems to me that it's probably 95% of the people that I need to talk to are on LinkedIn somewhere. And whether I generate that conversation on LinkedIn or I use it just as a research tool to figure out who they are and then, call them on the phone or email them or, whatever, like LinkedIn is the best right now for that.
That's good to know.
Yeah. And and the thing with LinkedIn too is, just in my humble opinion, in any social media, it's more about using it as a tool to start a conversation with somebody as it is just putting content out. It's easy to just take photos of stuff and put out content like a billboard and just leave it there. And that's where a lot of people that I talk to all the time, who are architects and engineers and contractors are down on social media. Well, it doesn't work. I posted this stuff and nobody called. Posting stuff is that's step one. Step two is then posting stuff and finding the right people to talk to, starting conversation with them, be it on, I use Instagram as a crazy business development tool. I probably send 50 DMs on LinkedIn a day to architects, engineers, contractors, owners, whoever I can find that, might need landscape architectural services. I'd probably send 50 DMs a day on LinkedIn or on Instagram. And that's the thing that in our industry, man, hardly anybody's doing. Very few. And,
that's great.
And we all have one of these, and so it's super easy. Like, lay in bed at night and do it or whatever. It doesn't even matter what time of day.
Yeah, that's great.
I like that.
Yeah, and you got to kind of post some stuff sometimes or whatever. But I seriously think it's way more about starting that conversation than is about content and posting stuff. And Josiah, I know you're a photographer, so finding content for you guys was, is probably pretty easy. And I know that's the thing a lot of people struggle with, is why they don't, do a lot of stuff on social media, is because people say, well, I don't have any content. Dude, you're in an office with like a bunch of other people. You have nothing but content, post a photo of Eric every single day. Hashtag mornings with Eric or whatever. Like, you have nothing but content. And that's what so many contractors just don't understand, man. And I know you guys do.
Yeah, like you're part of a sweet project. There's so many cool parts and pieces.
Exactly.
That media is all around you. You just got to capture it and post it up, and then connect with those owners and show them what you can do.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the beauty of, and I'm glad you guys are doing a lot of Instagram, because I mean, a lot of contractors still in, the year 2020 aren't really doing much of it. And, building stuff and, designing stuff, it's so visual. Like, Instagram is made for our industry, just made for it. Because like I said, I mean, you go out on a project and it doesn't even matter how small the project is. There's a dozen cool things happening right now that you can, post and tag, tag the owners in, tag the architects, tag everybody involved with the project, the drywall contractor, if they're on Instagram or whatever. And that's what really kind of helps build you up on Instagram is by tagging people and getting other people involved with what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of documenting, what's happening.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that goes on each of the jobs, and you're right. Construction just isn't very good at capturing that stuff. We're good at doing cool things, but not showing that to everybody.
That's exactly it, and that's where I've seen. I mean, nationally, a lot of contractors that have a lot of success on social media. It's because they totally, like you said, they do cool stuff, and that they find that one person, those two people that are good at capturing what those cool things are. And if you can do that, man, you'll have a ton of success. And even, I've seen a lot of contractors use it to show their safety programs. I know with a lot of owners, the safety is super important. So post like a cool safety photo every morning or whatever of like, a safety meeting or, whatever training, weekly or bi-weekly or however often trainings are happening, post that stuff to show that, yeah, we are, really, serious about all this safety stuff. And then it's just always out there.
Yeah. You're doing it, you might as well brag about it.
Absolutely. Exactly. And that's a funny point. That's what a lot of people kind of think, that, it's just bragging, or whatever. No, it's not. It's just documenting what we're doing. You don't have to say, hey, this is the best safety meeting that was ever created in the history of safety meetings. Like, yeah, we had a safety meeting and, we had all these dudes in here and we want everybody to go home safe at night. Like, that's not bragging. It's just documenting what you're doing. Yeah. So is Eric going to join us, or is he too cool for school?
I doubt it. I can try to drag him into our office if you want.
That's all right. I have some photos of him from back in the day that I was going to I'll put on here, and like some little thought bubbles or whatever, stuff that he may be thinking about. So he will probably wish he would have actually been in person, because what I'll make him say will be way worse than anything he could have said on his own.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So are you guys traveling quite a bit right now?
A little bit. We're over in Boise, and we're about to start up a project down in St. George at Dunkin' Donuts, Baskin Robbins down in St. George. Other than that,
you guys travel up there? Do you guys fly, or do you drive like a St. George for those?
Our superintendent will drive. He'll probably fly back every couple of weeks. Rather than drive. We're kind of evaluating that right now and what works best for him.
Yeah. And the reason I asked is, I mean, since March, I mean, because we have an office in Salt Lake City and we do projects all over the place. So for years I've been, traveling a ton, but this year I haven't gone anywhere. Like, I don't know, I've left the confines of Boise since March. So I was just curious if, what it's like flying or traveling or whatever, because I haven't done any of it.
You haven't flown yet. Eric has. He says it's not too bad.
Nice. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people like from the Boise airport post photos of the parking lot, and it's just empty, just an empty parking lot, which is so crazy, because for so long Boise, the airport's been so busy, they've been trying to build more parking lot and build, the parking garage out and stuff, and now it's like they don't even need it. It's crazy. It's
definitely crazy. We wonder what the world's going to look like going forward, how much this is going to affect and change habits and
seriously,
like that.
Big time. I mean, I definitely think that for our industry, we're going to see, offices going to, the way offices are laid out is going to change a ton. So, I mean, for you guys, that's going to be a lot of tenant improvement work, a lot of, reconfiguring stuff and doing stuff that probably, a lot of us haven't really done. And I mean, for us at Stackrock Group, I've had a lot of calls with people wanting to, schools, universities, cities wanting to create, private, semi-private, kind of protected outdoor spaces, stuff that, we've always kind of thought and talked about, but definitely doing it in a different way now than we ever really sort of imagined. And so I think for all of us, it's going to lead to a bunch of different work that we've never even really thought of, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's transforming the way that people work for sure. I think there was a trend, but this has accelerated that trend greatly.
Oh, big time. Like for us, we've always been, into technology and able to work remotely. And, there will always be a few of us, historically at Stackrock Group that would work, from home or from, wherever when we're on the road and stuff. So we've always had the tools to do it, but we've never had to do it everybody at the same time. And that's really kind of been the learning curve for us, is figuring out how to, keep in contact with each other and collaborate on stuff. Because, when historically, we'd be able to go gather around somebody's desk or drawing table, whatever, and look at stuff. And now trying to figure out how to do it over Zoom or Google or whatever that's been kind of the hard part for us. Yeah.
And have you guys seen good success with that?
We have. I mean, there was a learning curve for sure. There for a while at the beginning, productivity was down quite a bit because, trying to work remote and, like I said, trying to collaborate on stuff just wasn't really happening or working. But I feel like we're in a pretty good place now for it. And I mean, I have not set foot in our office since March. I've been, either working kind of remotely, obviously remotely from here, my house, or, somewhere. And like, I have found that I'm more productive for what I do, not at the office than being there. If I need help or I need to collab on stuff, I can call somebody or we can do a Zoom call, but I don't need to be there. I can get way more done here in my basement than I can sitting at my desk.
Yeah, that's for sure. I know that Eric was talking to a fairly large employer here in Idaho Falls, and the CEO, I think he was golfing with them, but he said the same thing. Weird. That they found out, they sent everybody home, they worked remotely, and he found out that they were more productive as a whole than working in the office. And they just remodeled a brand new office space to house everybody in. So he's trying to figure out, what do we do going forward?
What do we do with this whole new building? Yeah, totally. That's crazy.
And I don't know if that lasts over time, if people are more productive just starting working at home, and maybe then there's a transition and a change there, that it's not as efficient as people get more used to that. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what happens.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one of my favorite parts is not having to, drive or commute. I mean, our office is in the middle of downtown Boise. I'm on kind of the West Bench area. So, I mean, I'm on a good day, like with no traffic, I'm 10 minutes from our office. When they're, on a Monday morning at 9, I'm, probably 20 or 30 from the office. But even that 10 to, 20, 30 minutes a day that I don't have to, drive or sit in traffic, that I can, respond to emails or work on stuff like that. That's my favorite part, is just coming downstairs and going to work, not having to go anywhere.
Jared,
and I don't think people realize how many interruptions they have during the course of a day. I remember when I was a busy project manager, I would tell my wife, like, I got to go into work on Saturday. And I'd tell her, I'm going in at 7. I'll probably be back at 1. I come into the office at 7, and by 9, I've knocked out all my work that I needed done. And I just don't realize how much time sucks there are in a day from interruptions and talking and people. You just don't realize how much we're interrupted during the day. And when you're working at home, you just don't have that, unless you got kids like me. And then
right, which I do too. But that's a whole different kind of interruption, though.
Yeah.
And that's been kind of another one of my favorite things. We have a 2-year-old daughter, and almost every day I get to sit down in the rocking chair in the middle of the day and like take a nap. She'll take a nap on me for a couple hours. Like, and otherwise, like if I was going to the office every day, I wouldn't have been able to do that. It's been the best thing for me for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah. So are you guys, everybody in the office every day, or do you guys kind of work remote a little bit?
No, we've been pretty much in the office. There have been some people that have worked remotely a little bit. But other than that, Eastern Idaho, we really haven't seen a ton of cases. And so people are comfortable coming into the office working. Nice.
That's cool. Yeah. It's man, here in Boise, it's been up and down. It's been crazy. Yeah. And we here at my house, our family, we've been trying to be super careful. We've got, aging parents and stuff that we don't want to get sick. Like if I got sick, my wife got sick, whatever, I'm fairly certain we'd be fine. But I mean, the last thing I want to do is pass it to my, my folks or my grandma or whatever, because, who knows how they deal with it.
Yeah, a lot of what we do here in the office can be done remotely.
Sure.
Our project management and accounting software is housed on a server here, which we can still remote in. But yeah, a lot of the work that the PMs do, or even Josiah and estimating, can just as easily be done at home if need be.
Yeah, totally. So Josiah, man, so for what you do, have you been traveling quite a bit, like out of Idaho Falls, or are you pretty much just in Idaho Falls right now?
No, I've been stationary here in Idaho Falls. I haven't been traveling since COVID hit. So
yeah, I haven't either, man. Like I said, I mean, I'm historically the last couple of years I've been in Salt Lake City, once, for a week every month, and just not going anywhere. I'm a 100% extrovert. Like I've taken the Myers-Briggs a dozen times, and every time 100% extrovert. And so for me, like going from, being at meetings every day, going to lunch, taking the client, prospective client to lunch every day, going to happy hour with somebody every day, going from that to like nothing was really hard for me. Going to networking meetings, a couple, 3 times a week. Yeah. Doing that to just nothing, man. I was in a pretty dark place there for a while. It's taken me a while to kind of adjust to not, being around as many people. It's been crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely been harder on extroverts than it is introverts. I've got a daughter who's an introvert. She was so excited when school got canceled, and we can't go anywhere. She's so excited. I got other kids that are just driving them nuts and crazy, and they got to go see their friends. And yeah, it's definitely hit people differently depending on their personality.
Totally. Yeah, I at some point I really hope that. Yeah, who knows what's gonna happen? But I hope I can go to meetings and networking stuff again sometime, because not doing it sucks. Speaking of networking and associations and stuff, Josiah, are you a part of any networking groups or the BOMA group in Idaho Falls or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm a part of a few networking groups.
Nice. Good.
Here locally, they have all transitioned into Zoom meetings, so
right.
The effectiveness for me there has declined.
100%. Yeah.
If you reach out to them individually, it's still a little bit beneficial. But Krisjan, so I've been talking to a few clients. I've seen clients with huge revenue hits and some clients with huge revenue gains. I think for us internally, we've definitely seen a little bit of a hit. What about you?
Yeah, we've seen a bit of a hit. We had some big commercial projects that got put on hold, that got pushed back. They keep getting pushed back. But we've had sort of a shift. I mean, there for a while we were down. Now we're evening out now, because for us, we do a ton of residential and a ton of commercial. Both things. In government stuff, we do a lot of both. Residential for us is probably busier right now than it's ever has been. Everybody's at home, spending all this time like, oh my God, I do want that pool in my backyard. I want my backyard to be better because I'm here all the time. And that's the stuff. Those are the calls that I get every single day. I mean, I think we probably had close to a dozen brand new residential client meetings this week. So that for us is just blown up right now.
Yeah, our retail is definitely taking a huge hit. So we're kind of pivoting our resources from more retail to multifamily.
Totally.
As we
well, and I know you mentioned hospitality too. I keep reading stuff that hospitality is nationwide way down. Like they're no hospitality stuff has started or whatever in LA in like a month or something like that, which has been unheard of in the last 100 years.
Yeah. Huge hit to that market.
Yeah. But so before all the COVID stuff, were there a lot of hotels planned for Idaho Falls, like new hospitality stuff?
Yeah, there's definitely some plan for Idaho Falls, but also more up towards Jackson and West Yellowstone. So all of those plans have kind of just receded back and in the holding stage.
Right. Is anybody saying that we kind of see the end of this and we're going to start firing these back up again, or is everything just getting pushed back?
I think there's a lot of hopefulness for 2021. People are saying we're planning for spring of 2021, and we'll see what that comes of that.
Right. Yeah, dude, this is so crazy. Go ahead.
That's kind of where we're holding our breath in commercial, because commercial lags, right? So people who are going to start building in the spring are starting to plan right now. And if that doesn't happen, you know, restaurants took a big hit right away. You know, retail, like they're all people that just turned a switch in a week and their revenue dropped off. And commercial construction, we're kind of thinking that's 6-8 months from now. All the stuff we're working on was happening before, you know, March, was in the works before March. And some people, like you said, were able to hit pause, and maybe they pull the trigger next year. But all those people who should start planning to start projects next year, are they doing that? Or are we going to see a pretty big dip next year in 2021 in commercial because they're just not planning right now?
Totally. No, I totally agree with that. Yeah. And I mean, for us, I mean, the stuff that's really kept going, restaurant stuff for the most part. I mean, we had some, you know, restaurant projects that we were in the, you know, right in the middle of design on, and they said, nope, we're stopping this. We'll let you know when we're ready to restart. We had a pretty good handful of those. Multifamily stuff, you know, on the planning and design side is still going strong. That's government stuff obviously is still kind of going. You know, we do a lot of stuff with Idaho State Parks and Rec, and you know, we had a lot of stuff in the works already, but I don't think they've started anything new this year, you know, design wise.
Well, and you guys being in residential is a great thing to be in, especially in our area, because we're hearing numbers from like 30-day closings for the past month or two being like, I've heard anywhere from 60 to 80% out of town people buying homes in at least Eastern Idaho. I'm sure you guys are seeing the same thing in Boise. But I think that gravitation of people against going away from the West Coast is going to be accelerated too. It appears, people moving away from these areas that are more unstable.
Oh, big time. And I was watching some news show or something last night, and they were talking about exactly that, where, you know, people who live in the Bay Area who work, you know, have crazy, you know, 2-hour commutes to and from every day. They work for software companies or whatever. Now they can work 100% remote. So why stay doing that? Like, they're going to move to Boise or Austin or, you know, Idaho Falls or, you know, somewhere where they can, as long as they have an internet connection, they can do their job.
Yeah, for sure. That appears to be accelerated.
Totally. So for construction solutions, go ahead.
Well, I think I heard it was a survey. I think it was like a year ago. It was California, and it was like 50% of the people that they talked to said that they were planning on leaving in the next 5 years. I remember thinking at the time, like, there's no way. I mean, everybody says that, but they don't go ahead and pull the trigger to do it. But I think with this unrest that we have now, a lot of people are pulling the trigger and deciding to move and make that leap.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens with real estate and stuff in the Bay Area and LA and stuff. If all those people leave, I mean, I you know, just for fun, you know, I love San Francisco. Like, if I could just live somewhere, man, I would live in San Francisco. And so every once in a while, like on Zillow or something, I'll look at houses and stuff there. It's insane how little like $1.5 million will get you in the Bay Area. It is crazy. Like my house there, this is like a $10 million house in the Bay Area. It's crazy.
Oh, like what do you get for $1.5 million in San Francisco? Like a studio?
Yeah, a studio, like less than 1,000 feet, no parking, needs renovated, like a hunk of junk for $1.5 million. It's crazy.
That's
like
hard
a dilapidated 800-foot room.
Oh, that's tough.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy. Yeah, and then you know, new clients for us. We've definitely had a lot of those folks, you know, who are moving from the Bay Area and, you know, other, you know, bigger cities out west that are coming this way a little bit and are just stoked at what their money gets them. And then, you know, it's been like that for a long time. Yeah. So for you guys, a construction solutions company, man, what's next? What's kind of the next evolution for you guys? Like what happens now?
We're still trying to grow, and I think our growth that we've kind of been focused on is doing bigger projects. Like I was saying earlier, owners think you can't do it unless you've done it before, and so we're trying to partner up, either investment or be a stakeholder in some of these bigger projects, because we just need to break that ceiling into getting into the $8 to $15 million projects, which we're working on a few right now. So hopefully we're able to land a few of those, you know, in the next year. We can prove ourselves and show ourselves that we can handle these bigger projects with the sophistication that we are and the technology that we use. We feel like we can manage those projects really, really well and compete with the bigger contractors. So we're really focused on trying to land a few of those projects, because we can expand, threefold if we're doing bigger jobs, and not have to expand our overhead or our personnel threefold. Because if you're on a 6-month, $2 million job, it doesn't take much more paperwork or PM power or superintendent power than managing, an $8 to $12 million project. There's one billing a month that you got to do. There's X amount of submittals you got to do. It's kind of the same overhead work to some extent that goes into managing those. So that's where we're trying to get to is to get into those bigger jobs.
Nice. So you mentioned technology. Talk about that a little bit. What is some of the technology you guys are using that maybe, some of your competitors or other people in the industry aren't using?
Sure. We've got a lot of good response from owners from the technology and the way we manage projects that's different than what they see with other contractors. So specifically, we use Procore. And a lot of contractors, a lot of big contractors use Procore. Procore is a cloud-based online system. So our daily logs are done through Procore every day. So our superintendents do daily logs. They take pictures. They document who's on the project, what they're working on. So every single day, our owners, architect, landscape architect, whoever wants to be on that list, will get a daily report every day of what's going on the job, pictures, issues. They get to see how the sausage is made, good or bad.
Nice.
But they get those daily logs every day. All the submittals run through Procore, so it's all paperless. We can manage that process and that flow of information and paperwork a lot better. So submittals, daily logs, our plans are on there. So all of our subcontractors, owner, architect can all have access to the current set of drawings. Managing drawings on a project is sometimes a feat in and of itself.
Totally. Yeah, that's a full-time job right there if it's a kind of a complex project.
You got landscape architect that's revising drawings and flowing to the project manager, to the superintendent, and to the subcontractors, making sure that they're all operating on the same set of drawings is
Totally.
Sometimes a half-time job in and of itself.
Yeah, I can't tell how many times that we get, an RFI back or something where it's like, dude, this is like 5 versions ago. How do you guys even get these? Yeah. I didn't even know we even sent these to anybody. That's crazy.
Yeah, so I think
that's awesome. You guys are using that.
Yeah, that's been a big boost to our managing of the job, our ability to manage the job, and our ability to communicate. Because we really see us as a general contractor. Some people look at general contractors and be like, "What do you do? Like, you don't do anything, really. I mean, everybody else is doing the work." But we see, we call it our queen bee role. Our queen bee role is to be the conductor of this orchestra, right? The conductor, he doesn't play any of the instruments. But he knows all the instruments. He knows the parts that they play in the piece, and he knows the piece very well. And he has to take all these different groups of musicians and then create a masterpiece. And part of that is the biggest part of that is communicating expectations, communicating quality, schedule, and so we really try to hammer to our guys that we're conductors. And this is what we do, and we got to conduct the business, that all the work that goes onto this job, and we got to communicate with individuals. And so we've really tried to embrace that technology that helps us communicate expectations and plans and revisions and submittals, and how do we communicate and coordinate more effectively with everybody, because that's going to create a successful project, is if we can communicate and coordinate properly with everybody.
Absolutely. And it's funny how many people don't, even in this day and age with all the technology and all the tools available, still don't get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we talk about that in our shop all the time. It doesn't matter if it's, with us, internally to clients, with our spouses, whatever. Like you said, communication and just setting expectations is one of the most important things there is. And it's so often overlooked.
Yeah, one of the things that we introduced probably about a year ago with our guys is that, and we've tried to make it mandatory, they're doing a better job, is that when a subcontractor steps on your job, you have an onboarding meeting. And you go over, because the superintendent's always complaining, right? Well, they didn't know that this was in their scope, and they didn't know this, and there's all these excuses. So we said, okay, we're gonna have an onboarding meeting where we can communicate and where we can set expectations. And so that when that guy steps on the job, And you guys probably see it with landscapers. Like you have, and it's a challenge that we have as a contractor, and it goes throughout the contracting community. Somebody in the office bids the job for these subcontractors, and then they hand it. Every time you hand over the job, you probably lose 20 to 30% of the knowledge that went into that. So when a guy steps on the job, he sometimes hasn't even looked at the job and the plans yet. Somebody else looked at it in the office, and somebody else may have bid it, and then they hand it to him to do it. And so we've talked to our guys that it's critical that we sit down at that point and we go through their scope of work, so that there isn't 3 weeks later, it's like, I didn't think that we were doing that. So we address that right up front, go over their scope, go over safety expectations, site cleanliness, submittals, review their submittals. You guys probably deal with it. Like they approve, you guys approve one thing on the submittals, and then they come out and they use something completely different. So
yeah, no, that never happens.
No, never, right? So they review their submittals to make sure that we are all on the same page before we start this work. And we try to tell our guys, if we do that, a lot of these things that you're complaining about later on will all go away, because we'll fix 80% of those things if we all start on the same page with the right submittals, the right materials. You've communicated your schedule expectations and your quality expectations and your safety expectations. We've preemptively taken care of probably 80% of your problems. And even though this onboarding meeting takes time, you are going to save yourself time fighting fires on the back end.
Sure. I bet that, couple hour meeting or however long, depending on the project, that tenfold that'll save time on the back end of a project. I can't even imagine.
For sure. And it's always managing a business, and even managing any part of work. That's, I think, one of the big challenges is finding those things that are not urgent but very valuable, and committing to doing those things to save yourself fighting fires in the long term. And so it's something that we continue to harp on our guys and train them and emphasize and try to get them to do these things so that the whole process goes smoothly.
Totally. When you first started doing that with subcontractors, was there a lot of pushback on that, or did guys kind of appreciate that from the get-go?
No, from what we've received feedback from the field, they really appreciate it. Some of them are hesitant because we're having them sign those documents as we go through them. Like, I don't want to sign these. We're not trying to back you in a corner or create a stick to beat you with. We're just trying to make sure that we're communicating and on the same page with everything. It's been really good because, like I said, some of the subs send their guys out ill-equipped to do the work. And so we're helping them get them up to speed on the project and what's going on the project and the scope of work. And so it actually has been well received with the subcontractors that we've been working with.
Sure. Gosh, I mean, like you said, like some of the guys, like the newer, smaller contractors, whatever, like I can see them really appreciating that because, I mean, I can imagine, work with a lot of landscape contractors who, worked for somebody else and then started their own gig. And until you're in it, you don't really understand everything that goes in it because you only see, your little part of what you're doing. And so, yeah, so you guys are educating like subcontractors on like how to do stuff. That's awesome. I bet those guys totally appreciate that. Yeah.
And you mentioned a good aspect to, you got a subcontractor, they don't see the big picture. They don't see how their work affects others. And that's another thing hard to our guys is that you got to fill the gap between these. You got, again, all these instruments in this orchestra, and the HVAC guy needs to understand how his stuff is affecting the plumber and the fire sprinkler contractor. And the electrician. So you got all this stuff that, architects never give us enough room up above the ceiling. And so you got to help coordinate all this work. And they really have to fill the gaps between the scopes that come together, right? Where the roofing meets the siding, where the siding meets the windows. Like you have to help these subcontractors fill the gap between where their work stops and somebody else starts and how they affect other work on the project. That's really another value that a good subcontractor or a good superintendent and a general contractor bring to a project.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't tell you, some of the projects that we've been on, that the project, I mean, it was super successful despite how kind of messed up it was to start, because of a good superintendent can save a project and make it go so much smoother than it would have otherwise. That is such an important role.
Absolutely, it is. It's such an important role, and it's kind of becoming a lost art, right? Because
Totally.
People go to college and they want to work on computers, and we don't find very many of those guys who want to be out in the field, want to be managing projects, and doing that coordination work. And it's a very difficult position to fill, because you got to have people skills. You got to know a little bit about everything on the job. It's really a career thing that you need an educated person for it, right? They got to have a lot of vast knowledge. But if you look at like education, there's not a good education avenue, I guess I should say, to help place those people, but they are in construction. They're one of the most critical and influential roles on our construction projects.
Totally. Well, I was going to ask you about that. Like, do you have any young superintendents, or all your superintendents dudes that have been in the game for a long time that, aren't going to go anywhere?
No, most of them actually right now are young. We've had a couple older ones, but they're no longer with us. And so and it's just hard to find that role. And so we've realized, hey, we have gone to colleges to recruit people, because you can go to a college and you can find, it's not the majority, it's the minority, but the minority is there, which is these guys who are going to college who want to be out in the field, working out in the field. So we've cherry picked some of those guys and just help train them, because we realize that it's hard to hire a competent superintendent. And so we just need to hire somebody who we think has the potential and the temperament and fits our culture, and then we can train them with those skills. And so we have training meetings every quarter where we discuss, structural stuff or civil stuff. And so we're trying to train our guys to fill that role. We've had guys that have come up through the ranks too. One of our best superintendents was just a carpenter and started with us, 9 years ago, and has learned all the other disciplines and has become one of our best superintendents.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know here in Boise, a lot of the times there's like bidding wars to get superintendents on projects. I mean, I've heard of, companies paying $10,000 signing bonuses and stuff to jump ship and go to work for somebody else as a superintendent. It's crazy.
Yeah, for I think a lot of general contracting companies, your superintendents is your bottleneck.
Sure.
You go hire an estimator, but you can only manage a certain amount of projects that you have good superintendents for. I mean, it's really a bottleneck to most general contracting companies.
That's super interesting, man. Knowing what I know now about like our whole industry and how stuff works, like if I could kind of restart my career in this industry, dude, I would be a superintendent. Like that seems like an awesome place to be, because you get to, like you said, be around people and, help manage stuff and do stuff, but then, be outside, not be stuck in the office. Like being stuck in the office, that's my nightmare, being stuck in the office all the time.
Yeah, it is really it really is a cool position, because it's like going shopping, somebody who likes shopping and being able to shop for somebody else and spend other people's money. Right.
Totally.
They just love doing that. Like the superintendent, you got people in the background doing all the paperwork, doing all the submittals, and all you get to do is spend money. Like you just get to come out and
right.
You get cranes out there, and you get lumber delivered and steel, and you just get to put it all up, and you get to see the fruits of your labors right there without all the paperwork, and you just get to tell people to come out and do it and coordinate that work and just see it come together. And they get to see the fruits of their labors every day and walk through, their blood, sweat, and tears in a building. And it's just the coolest thing.
Absolutely. And that's and really for all of us in our industry, on the design side, the construction side, that's the coolest thing about our industry though. I mean, I can't tell you how cool it is to do. I mean, you guys know, drive by a project. Oh, I mean, yeah, we did that, man. We helped make that thing happen. Like that's the coolest thing about our industry, having that tangible thing that we all collectively did together.
Yeah, it really is, because there's very few industries that I know of that you can walk through your work. Like Totally. At the end of the day, all your work creates something physical that you can see, touch, walk through, take cool pictures of. Like it really is the coolest thing about construction, and the thing I enjoy the most. Is that
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, you can walk through, a school that you built, or a bank, or a restaurant, and eat the food. It's just a really cool aspect about construction that I don't think a lot of people realize. When you look at kids these days and trying to get them into construction, like there is some sense of fulfillment. You have to have fulfillment in your job, and construction provides one of the best elements of fulfillment that I know of in different industries, because you get to see what you do. I mean, it's really cool.
Absolutely. There's still stuff. I'll still drive by stuff here in Boise. I worked for a landscape contractor from the time I was 15 until I graduated from Boise State. And there's still places I'll drive by that, like, yeah, I installed the sprinklers there when I was 17 years old. Like, I'll see the sprinklers on when I drive by. And yeah, I mean, that was a long time ago, but that sprinkler system we installed is still working, you know?
Yeah, it's one of the coolest things to have family come into town. And we can, now that we've been in business, you know, for 8 years, we can drive across town and you can say, yeah, we did that. We did that. We remodeled that. And it's just really a cool thing as you grow in your career, to be able to drive through a town and just point out every 30 seconds how you've made a mark in your community.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, there's not a lot of other careers, industries where you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're pretty lucky to get to do what we do.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, fellas, I think we're kind of up against time here. So before we go, Josiah, let us know, let everybody that's kind of watching and listening, how can they find Construction Solutions Company on social media? What's your website? And, you know, if somebody's looking for a good general contractor, how do they find you guys?
So look us up, Instagram, Construction Solutions Company. Kind of a mouthful, but Construction Solutions Company, all spelled out. Same with our Facebook, same with our website. So, and on there is all of our contact information. It'll direct you right to the office. You can talk to myself or to Eric Wall. We'd be happy to help you out.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me this morning, you guys.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Krisjan. We sure appreciate it.
You got it. I'll see you guys soon, hopefully. Yeah, hopefully I'll get to Idaho Falls, get to see you guys sometime.
Anytime.
Okay. Thanks, fellas. Talk to you soon.
Thanks.